Hey, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here, and I'm in a new location. I'm in the new office. Let me know in the chat if you could hear me. I see we have Saeed, we have Caitlin, Gustavo. What is going on? Hopefully, you can hear me very clearly. I'll be hearing myself in just a second through the old headphones. It should be kicking through. I can't hear myself. Very nice. Today, we're going to talk about a few things. I'm going to answer questions. Of course, I'll probably talk about random stuff as I do occasionally. And I'll give you an update on the little office down here. Georgie is sitting next to me. She's actually, you can't see her. Oh my gosh, you can't see her from right there. She's like right there. Maybe she'll stand up in a second. But she'll walk around. She chills down here occasionally. So yeah, we moved down here. I gave up the office upstairs so that I could have a larger recording area for podcast and video podcasting and stuff. You could see back there. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave that lamp there, but it's here for now. And I have a guitar out for now, just hanging out, so I can turn around and play it very easily. It's pretty nice. Oh, Caitlin says the lighting might need work. What's the issue with the lighting? Is it a little too bright, a little too dark? I have been playing with it. I have some lighting back here, and I think in the back I may have like the lamp to give a little more depth. But yeah, we're trying to figure it out. It was very industrial looking before. We had all the white insulation and stuff, but I covered it up with black fabric. So yeah. Okay, so is there too much shadow on me right here? Like it's a very dramatic look. I have so many different lighting options, but thanks for the input. I will figure it out. Maybe that is a little bit better there. All right, and we have David as well. Okay, and Caitlin says the right side is dark and the left side is light. Yes, it is a very dramatic look from, it's more like a movie. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. And I have a light back there to give a little more depth from just in general. But anyway, it's very interesting, all the different ways you can light it. And I have different, just off versus on. I haven't figured out exactly how I want to do it. And I did get a new microphone too. Carl Jensen, we launched our new podcast. It finally came out, and we'll have guests, like live guests, in the studio here. So I did need to get some new microphones and decided to upgrade. There's a couple of sort of newer ones out. So this is not like the super fancy Shure mic, but it's an MV7, which is very nice, actually. Very nice. I think the audio quality is higher just directly out of the box. So pretty cool. And so a couple things we're going to cover today. I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about. And then I had a great idea about giving a very clear example of advanced networking so that you potentially can get more social shares and maybe even backlinks to your site. It will potentially take some time to get rolling, but I know Christy, for example, who has been giving us updates over the last several months, actually, well, the last few years, but each month she's been giving an update. She hit record revenue in April, $6,200. And she has been doing this sort of style of networking. We're not going to look at her site, of course, but some of my friends have been doing this. A specific person or a specific company, Genius Link, has been doing this kind of thing. And I've interviewed their founder, one of the co-founders, Jesse Lakes, a few times, and they've done a really good job with this over the long term. And like I said, not only are they able to get social shares, they are able to get some backlinks through it as well. So that's something to pay attention to, because I know sometimes it's a little scary to do this networking and maybe you don't know the people yet. But once you get started with it and some people are involved, with your, or at least you're featuring them and you're interacting with them, and you've successfully been able to network some, it becomes much easier, and we'll be able to look exactly how Genius Link has done that. So we'll take a look at that. And let's see what else. Well, I can go ahead and start talking about the random stuff too. And I will answer some questions, especially towards the end. We will, I'll wait to show some of the Genius Link stuff because I am not sure what is going on with like notifications and or just the viewership of the live streams. I think potentially, right? I think potentially I'm giving just shitty titles, so people are not paying attention as much, or the thumbnails suck. I've just been phoning it in, honestly, the last couple of weeks. And then the other thing is maybe I'm not sending out emails early enough. Now, at first I was thinking, oh, maybe the notifications don't go out as effectively. Maybe YouTube is not sending out as many of them or something. But I think there were hundreds of viewers over on Alex WP Eagle's channel yesterday for his live stream. So it must just be me, the way I do it. All right, Caitlin says, good question here. Do you like ciders or sours? I typically won't seek out either one of those. I'll usually have beer, not cider, just as a rule. And then the other part is sours. I'll usually go for like a farmhouse style that may have a little bit of funky flavor, but sours in general, I'm not usually, if I could get something else, I'll probably get something else. So for example, I went to the liquor store yesterday and I bought Leffe Blonde, which is a beer I love. I used to have it all the time, but it's not as readily available in the grocery store that I go to now. So I don't get that as often, but I love the beer. And then I got a Saison from Funkworks, which is very good. I think that they're up in Fort Collins or in the vicinity there. Love Saisons, one of my favorite beer styles. There's one brewing behind me over there. You can't see the airlock, but it's back there. And then I also got a Belgian sort of Abbey style ale. It's very good. And the thing is, I usually just won't seek out the sours. They're much better now than they used to be. But when I was first tasting sours, they were kind of terrible, especially the homebrew ones. You just ended up with a beer that wasn't very good, and they called it a sour. So, how about you, Caitlin? Do you like sours? And then again, to the Belgian beers, I have a ton of brewing books, but this one is a great one, Brew Like a Monk by Stan Hieronymus. And I've like read this multiple times, and I was thinking about brewing either a Golden Strong or a blonde coming up soon. So I was just reviewing some of the notes there. In other news, I got my second vaccine yesterday, 24 hours ago, and it seems to be a mixed bag. Like 50% of the people I've talked to seem to get some sort of, they just don't feel good. They don't feel good after about 24 hours. And then the other half, they're totally fine. They're totally fine. So we'll see. I feel fine right now. Maybe a little bit tired, but once we finish up here, I think I'm going to go for a walk or a jog, depending on how I'm feeling. So, and Saeed has a question. I'll come back to that in just a minute. Adrian is on, one of our other fine moderators, along with David. So thanks to those guys for doing that. Caitlin says that she loves Golden State ciders paired with some whiskey to sip on. It's a good pairing. Oh, that actually would be pretty good. I like whiskey. And the thing is, I will drink, I'll drink whatever, I'll drink whatever. In fact, I had never had a White Claw, but one of my friends had one the other day. And I was like, what are you drinking, man? What is that? And then I was like, all right, give me one of those. I'll try one too. So turns out they're at least whatever we had, they're very low calorie, which was kind of a nice surprise. Okay, so Saeed has this question here. I have a niche site, KJR keywords, but I can't write content properly. It's boring. What should I do? And Coffee Samurai says you should outsource it. So yeah, you have basically you have two choices here. You can work on writing so that you're better at it, or you can outsource it. Those are your two options: get better at it or have someone else do it. I would advise you to figure out how to get better at it, because that'll be a helpful thing in the future. Just in general, you'll be able to communicate with other people more effectively. It's a really good skill to have. In the meantime, you could outsource it. It costs money, of course. There's no free rides around here. All right, and D is on, first time to a live stream. Welcome, good to have you on live. And yeah, it's funny. I was just mentioning before, D, it seems like our live members are, well, the community here, there's not as many people hopping on live, but it could just be boring topics. I could just be picking boring topics or something like that. We'll see. I need to come up with clickbait style headlines and titles if I want more people to attend like that. Yeah, maybe I know Alex is doing good with it. Maybe I'll just say, hey, I'll review your site for free. Everyone seems to really love that. I don't think it's a good idea to out people's sites, but if my goal is just to get more viewers, maybe that's what I got to do. All right. I think we can maybe get into the meat of it. We have quite a few people here now. So we're going to talk about advanced networking, and people usually struggle with this, especially if you're new to it. Especially if you're new to maybe internet marketing in general. You're thinking, hey, I want to get backlinks, but I don't know how to approach it. And I hear you say, oh, why don't you go network and try to meet people in your industry? And it seems like people have a bit of a hang up. So here's what you could do. And I'll show you a specific example on what you could do. So my friends over at Genius Link, I think I can share my screen here. I set this up earlier and hopefully it'll work. So my friends over at Genius Link, this is their blog, and there's a link in the show notes and description there. So you can follow it and go to their blog and then explore this on your own. So what they generally do is they'll just have a text-based interview. So they don't have to schedule anything. They don't have to come up with questions to ask live or record it or anything like that. They send over a Google Doc with the questions, and they seem to be generally the same questions. All right. So you may see some more specific ones, but generally they are. Do we have a troll in here? And by the way, if there are any trolls in the audience, our moderators, you can just ban them from the channel. No need to pause them or delete the comments or anything. Just kick them out 100%. So we see here, this is an interview with Patrick. So they ask a question here, and few questions. How'd you get started? What's one piece of advice? A favorite piece of content? Tools that you recommend? See, it's all very generic. The biggest tool for growth. It doesn't have to be subscriber growth. It could be traffic growth. It could be whatever. SEO. There's a little bit that could be tailored to the specific person that you're featuring. And the thing is, you can essentially approach people that maybe you think are beyond your reach. You're featuring them, and basically, it's a very easy way to get started. Again, you don't have to record a video. You don't have to record an audio interview. You just ask some questions in a Google Doc and they reply back. You both win because you both end up with something you want. The person that's featured is featured as an expert, and then you'll notice there's a link back to Patrick's channel right here. And Genius Link gets a piece of content. Now, are they going to be able to rank with this content? Well, probably not. I mean, there's not an interview with Patrick Tomaso. I don't think anyone's searching for that. Someone might be searching for Patrick's name, but otherwise, probably not. So, probably not going to get organic traffic. But this is effective for at least two main reasons, maybe more. So, number one, there's a good chance Patrick has some other social media channel. Maybe he's active on Twitter or Instagram or something. It's great. He'll probably share this with his audience. And even if he only gets a few dozen clicks, maybe he has like 1,000 followers or something on Instagram or Twitter or something like that. Not a huge number, and only a fraction will actually see whatever he tweeted. Only a fraction will follow the link, but a handful will. So that's really good. And the other part is if Patrick has a blog, maybe he'll link back to this feature and say, hey, I was featured on Genius Link on their blog. Go check it out. So that's a link. He's a YouTuber, right? He has a channel. So there's a good chance he'll put it somewhere in one of the descriptions for a recent video. If it's someone who does live streams like this or more timely content, there's a solid chance that they will mention it in one of their live streams or link in a community post or something like that. So you'll get a few links, some maybe no follow, but you may get traffic through them. So in one isolated case, it's kind of interesting, right? Maybe you get that one link. Maybe you get 10 or 20 visitors that follow the tweet that Patrick puts out there. That's cool. Fine. But when you amplify this and scale it, then you end up with pretty interesting results. So we see that we have this from Patrick. We see an interview from Tom Buck. So Patrick's was May 11th. We have Tom Buck on April 27th. We have Bandrew Scott, which is an interesting name. It's like Andrew and with a B at the beginning. I haven't seen that. So every 2 weeks, they're publishing this. And then they have like a normal piece of blog content here. And then an interview with Sydney. And then you get the point, right? So on and on and on. Every 2 weeks, they're publishing one of these that potentially can get some shares, potentially could get you a couple backlinks, and they're able to publish on a regular schedule. And I think it can really work. So if you take a look, and I don't have this handy to pull up, but if you take a look at the Genius Link traffic in general, they've been getting more traffic and they've been publishing more. It's been more keyword driven for sure, but they're also publishing all of these basically bios and features of individuals who potentially can share content. They could share their feature and generate traffic that way. Again, if you just do this one time, not a huge deal, but if you do it over and over again, it's pretty interesting. You can get a lot more traffic, and I don't know how long the shelf life would be, but just on an ongoing basis, that's a good sign from Google that your site is being shared on social channels in some capacity. The other part is the networking, right? I titled this something about advanced networking. So you have this contact now, and at some point you could say, in fact, right after you share the content there, publish it, that is, you can ask the person, hey, is there anyone in your network that may also be a good fit? Maybe you could introduce me to that person. There's no reason they wouldn't want to do that. You've helped them, you feature them as an expert, so it's kind of a no-brainer, unless you're a jerk or something. But it turns out the Genius Link blog, that's a pretty good one. They have a lot of backlinks, and let me see if I can take a quick look. I have this plugin from KW Finder, and you cannot see it, but I can, so I'll tell you what it is. So Genius Link has a domain authority of 43 and a page authority of 35. So for the blog specifically, it's good for them to link to your site. So they will be happy about it, and the person featured is happy about it. So there's no reason not to share other contacts and stuff like that. So this is a perfect strategy, a great way to network. And you don't even know the possibilities that will come out of it in the future, right? So I don't think, Genius Link isn't necessarily in that position, but Christy, for example, she's in a position now, and if you haven't watched the full update, I'm going to come back to the full camera here. There we go. And Christy has her own products now. They're small, short ebooks under $10, but she is expanding that. She's going to have more of these ebooks, and she's going to have online courses as well. And she now has contacts that she has known for 2 years, because she started reaching out in the beginning and networking in the beginning in this same capacity, where she's featuring experts and helping them out before she really has much to offer, before she needs anything. She didn't even want anything. She just wanted to be, an active person in the industry. So the whole point is, if you start doing this early on, sure, you don't know what's going to come out of it in the future, but you may have a good match where you could help each other out. And maybe that person that you're featuring is going to be able to help you out a lot more, and you don't know how it's going to turn out. So I think that's a cool thing. Maybe you end up partnering up with them. I know just in general, I've been able to do that a few times over the years, where I've made friends with people, and then in some way we've been able to work together, either as affiliates for each other's products or to help promote, whatever either of us are doing. Okay. We have a few questions, so we'll get to those in a second. And shout out to Caitlin for the solid clickbait idea. 0 to 1 million in less than 6 weeks, maybe even overnight. We can throw that in there. Caitlin, let me know what beer you picked up the other week. Did you get Damnation, or did you get something else? All right, we'll get to these questions in a second. Thank you for asking them. Do need to give a shout out to Ezoic and their new site speed product and functionality called Leap. It is targeted at the user experience and the core web vitals that Google is now judging us with. Leap is the replacement for the Site Speed Accelerator. So Site Speed Accelerator is something I've talked about for a long time. Leap is rolling out. I think it is not, I'm not sure if it's available to everyone. So check over on Ezoic if you're monetizing with Ezoic. They changed up some of the stuff. So with the Site Speed Accelerator, you had some free functionality, and then there was some paid functionality. Leap, it's all included. It's all free. There's no There's no like levels of membership or anything like that. If you're using Ezoic for monetization, you will be able to use Leap if you do not already have access to it. So check out Leap, thanks to Ezoic, and check out their blog. Even if you're not in the market for Leap or anything like that, check out their blog. They have a lot of great content, very, very timely stuff. They cover current events in SEO and marketing, and they stay very current with things. It's a big company. It's a big company. All right. The other sponsor is Niche Website Builders, and they sponsor the Q&A segment. So shout out to them. I think I have a little overlay. Boom, Niche Website Builders. So you can save 10% on the link building packages that they have, or get an additional 10% if you order any of their content services or anything like that. So thanks to Niche Website Builders. I'll leave this little banner up right here. And there's a link in the description so you can get the coupon code. So you can just go over there and check it out. So let's answer some questions here. And I'll go back to the beginning because I know I skipped one earlier. I think I did. Indeed. Do you have any questions? First time on the live stream, so that's very cool. All right. Shayob says, most of my main keywords are within Google's 10 to 24. Can you please suggest what to do? Your site is 1 year old. Yeah, so there's a couple key things you could do. Number one, you can improve your content on those pages. So, double check. One of the biggest things I've seen recently is long introductions that suck. And that usually amounts to an introduction that is too long and one that just rambles on. So let's say it was a review on a guitar, much like that guitar back there. That's my new guitar. I'm really happy with it. So if I was looking up a review for a Gibson LG2 and the first 3 or 4 paragraphs talked about the origins of an acoustic guitar and why people buy acoustic guitars and what acoustic guitars are, I would not read it, because if I Googled something so specific like this, like a model of a guitar, it's obvious that I hopefully already know what a guitar is, and I probably don't give a shit about whether or not or like what the origin is. Like I don't need those basic definitions, and I've seen this in content in the last 6 months over and over again, and I'm a little surprised, but actually I have no idea why people do that. So make sure your intros are crisp and tight and get to the fucking point as soon as possible. The other thing is you can add FAQs. I know my friends at Niche Website Builders have an FAQ service. And if you add FAQs, there's a good chance you'll pull in some additional long tail keywords, and you're building some relevancy around that topic area and expertise in that topic area. You can also add internal links to your site, to those specific pages, with pretty aggressive anchor text and see how it goes. So those are some tips. You can also get links externally, but those are things you could do on your own. Elsie, how long should I give my site to rank? It depends. So if it's a brand new site, you may see very little traffic for the first few months. A lot of times people will give a guideline of something like 6 months for the Google Sandbox. I have a relatively new site, and it took about 9 months before it was getting much traffic. So it was fairly competitive in that niche, but I think you should be getting a little traffic, a few rankings in the first, few months. Now, it depends on, do you mean rank number one or rank in the top 50? And all that makes a difference. The higher up, the longer it takes, basically. All right. And then Saeed, so can I tell you how geo-targeting works and how to use OneLink properly? So basically, geo-targeting will direct someone to their country's Amazon store instead of to the US. So if someone is in the UK and they click an affiliate link on my site that normally would link to the US Amazon store, the tool, right? Genius Link actually does this. OneLink does it as well. And Amalinks Pro does it also. Your IP address will have some country associated with it. And then whatever tool it is, OneLink, Genius Link, Amalinks Pro, will direct the person to the UK Amazon store. So that is what you do. As far as using it properly, go read the documentation. So you can insert a code snippet. It's like one line and it's a little script link, and then that's all you have to do. But there's different ways to implement it, and depending on your website, you may want to do it a different way. So go read the documentation. You'll be able to figure it out. It's pretty easy. Paul, what's going on? Good to see you here. Oh, yeah. What shampoo do I use? Luckily, this is a huge money saver. Don't use it. Don't use it at all. Paul says, am I planning some courses in the coming months? None planned. I have like 5 courses out there, but you have interest in the courses on backlinks. So I have 2 courses that do have backlink information in them. One is Site Growth Plan, where I talk about 3 main ways to grow your site. One of them is backlinks, and there's a ton of content on link building. The other one is Haro link building, which is a method that is not covered in Site Growth Plan. And basically, Paul, shoot me an email, doug@nichesiteproject.com, and then I can help you figure out which course or courses might be a good fit for you. But I don't have plans for new courses at this time, since I have several of them out there, and yeah, just no new ones planned. Elsie says, is Pinterest dead? You know what? I never paid much attention to Pinterest. To my knowledge, it's not dead. And also, Elsie says, what do you think about writing blogs and affiliate reviews using AI copywriters? I don't think that'll work very well, just in general. So last week, I had the 2 co-founders of MarketMuse on, and they have a new sort of module in their suite of tools called First Draft. And it's pretty good. I've heard some people have like wild results using any of the AI copywriting tools that are out there. And if you see examples and you see the stories, and it's a pretty good piece of copywriting or piece of content that actually makes sense, that's actually kind of rare. I encourage you, if you haven't tested these out, to go try them yourself. They're kind of wild. Actually, I should do a video on that and just test one out and see what happens. Because I mean, the idea is, well, we're all lazy, and it sure would be great if we could just put in a keyword, maybe even an outline if we're, ambitious, and then it'll spit out a great piece of content for us that we don't even have to touch. Turns out, I don't think it works very well. like that. And I mean, after talking to the guys at Market Muse, they said, we really emphasize like this is part of the process of coming up with content. There's a good solid start, but it's not going to be your finished product. So it should be part of the process. Hence they call it first draft, right? It's not called final draft, it's first draft. All right. So I'll hit one more question here in the short term, and then we'll keep chatting, of course. And Caitlin, don't forget to let me know what beer you got the other week. I don't think I saw that in there. Paul says, when launching a new site, how many articles would you start with? 10 or 30 or 50? So I generally recommend about 20. So I used to say 10, but you need to publish a little bit more these days. And the thing is, like, when you say launch, what do you really mean? So when you say launch, do you mean it's an event? Because I'll give you an example in a second, but roughly 20 is a good start. And then after that, you probably want to publish more. You probably want to publish more than that. But the thing is, when you say launch, it seems like it's a specific event. And the fact is, you should just publish the content as quickly as you can. So if you get the first 5 done, go ahead and publish those. Don't hold back or anything. Go ahead and publish those, get them indexed, and move on. Now, as far as publishing 50 or 100, like, you don't have to, quote, launch with that many. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to have in your future a plan where you did publish dozens of pieces of content. So one thing that I do hear from people, they're like, oh, I'm going to launch my site and I'm going to publish 100 articles, and then I'm targeting 500. And I'm hearing this more and more, like, hey, I'm aiming for 1,000 articles. And it is, that's a lot. That's a lot. And depending on how good you are at following through with what you're trying to do, a lot of people are going to quit before they get to 500 or 200 or whatever. A lot of people are just going to quit. They're not going to be able to hang on. So I encourage people to start with something really doable. Aim for, get 5 published and then publish a few more. Of course, you want to publish more content, but you don't have to make it crazy. All right. So I'll come back to questions in a moment. I need to play a quick promo, a little ad. We got to pay some bills. My friends over at Odys, ODYS.global, have stepped up and they are helping out these days. So I have a featured domain that I want to share with you today. This spot is sponsored by Odys Global. They have age domains with backlinks and excellent branding. We're going to see a great example of that today, and that is brewapp.com. The cool thing is, well, they give me a lot of flexibility on what I cover and the domains that I want to cover. And if you've been paying attention the last few weeks, you know that I have been looking at these beer-oriented websites, of which there's quite a few of them. Now, the cool thing with this brewapp.com is how old it is. It is 24 years old. It was around since 1997. So that means if it was a person, it'd be able to drink. And the other thing is they have some of these screenshots here, and we'll actually take a little bit of a closer look over on the Wayback Machine over at the Web Archive just to see some of the snapshots. But you can see right here, there's some old school looking sites. This looks like GeoCities, or maybe they coded it by hand way back in the day. Again, 24 years old. Now, monetization angles, and this is one thing I can elaborate on quite a bit here. They mention that you could have DIY guides. talk about homemade beer, other fermented beverages, and monetize with ads. And yes, of course, I think that is the good move here. And I have some friends that actually have beer and homebrewing oriented websites. I've interviewed Matt Giovanisi, who has Brew Cabin. I interviewed Carl Steinmeier, who has, I think that one's Homebrew Academy. But in both cases, I think they could pick up this website and actually redirect it, maybe recreate some of the pages and go from there. The cool part is there are so many topics that you can cover. I recently judged a whole bunch of beers over at the National Homebrew Competition down in Louisville, which is in Boulder County, and people were into it. There were a few hundred people around that well, it was all very safe during these COVID times, but we all sat around and judged beer. People are into it. So the cool part is there's all these different informational topics. And in fact, I still, even though I'm an experienced home brewer, I look up different topics because I'm curious and interested, and I need to figure out how to brew a certain beer or get some historical information, that sort of thing. So there's tons of informational topics which you can monetize with display ads, of course, and then there's all the different affiliate programs that you could sign up for. Sure, the obvious Amazon, you could sign up for that. However, there's a lot of homebrew companies, homebrew supply shops that are huge online. I've ordered from a lot of them. More Beer, uh, Northern Brewer, Midwest Brewing. There's dozens of others, but you could probably sign up as an affiliate for some of those companies or run display ads specifically for those companies. So tons of monetization angles, and I think you know it's a good domain. Let's take a look at some of the metrics here. There are links from a few news sites. We have New York Times, we have CBS Local, there's Groupon, Homestead, and the thing is, it's very, very tightly integrated with the homebrew community. So BYO, that is Brew Your Own Magazine, Homebrew Talk, that's a big forum. Northern Brewer, it's one of those websites that I mentioned before that is essentially, it's a brick and mortar shop up in, I think, Minneapolis area, Minnesota in general, in the Midwest, of course. And they already have a link from there. There's Beer Advocate and several other very prominent websites. It's so niche specific, which is awesome. Again, we have 1997 was the original date. And the other thing I'm going to point out and highlight is the SEO metrics. So the domain rating is only 19, which is lower than I would expect. However, as I pointed out before, it has niche specific links, which are most important in my opinion. And I interviewed Shauna Newman not too long ago from Skip Blast, and she mentioned the same thing. The relevancy of the links is one of the most important things. There are over 144 unique referring domains. And let's just quickly look at the Wayback Machine. So I popped it open over here. Like I mentioned, I mean, this is an old school looking site. This looks like one of my original websites that I first coded back in whatever 1997 or 98. So there are a lot of snapshots going way, way back. So sometimes it takes a second for this to load. So here's the first one. You got the white brick wall, frames or no frames, Netscape 3.0. And this is from October of 1998. So this site has been around and it's worth checking out. It is indexed on Google, which is one of those metrics. Of course, it's just a landing page. So there's nothing else specifically indexed on Google. It's just a landing page for now. But there are probably quite a few different pages that you can recreate, especially where those links were heading to. So I want to thank Otis, and quick reminder, if you do sign up, let me get back on the main screen here. If you do sign up for Otis, you can get a $100 credit. If you use my affiliate link, I get a commission. If you buy anything, all that stuff, I do appreciate it. And thanks to Otis, even if you're not in the market for a domain right now, hop over to Otis, send them an email, let them know that you appreciate the sponsorship for these live streams. And let's go back to the live stream now. I need to start wearing the same exact shirt so there's full continuity. But I shot that yesterday. I need to. I mean, I'm getting a good cadence to like shoot those ahead of time, so it's a little bit cleaner, a little bit faster. I get a break during the live streams. Always appreciated. All right, so we got a few questions that popped up here. So we will hop back to those and let's see. All right. Oh, Master says, when am I going to start an authority site on home brewing? And you know what? It seems like a perfect match, especially, I mean, the fact is, the last couple weeks, the featured domains that I have mentioned, they are brewing related. They're brewing and beer related. I feel like there is an opportunity in, like, I haven't talked to Matt this week, but I saw him a couple weeks ago, and I think it would be very interesting to like scoop up several of these different homebrew sites and or websites or domains that are aged like this one, and just sort of consolidate all of them and just acquire those websites. There's tons of backlinks, and I think there's probably a decent number of breweries that have gone out of business, homebrew shops potentially, and I think there's an opportunity. But me, I'm not too interested. I would potentially join a podcast as one of the people, but or even YouTube, but I wouldn't necessarily launch anything myself. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to do this stuff. I do like beer though. Hassan asks, how do you fix keyword cannibalization? So first, you have a couple options. So you can sort of consolidate the content together and then redirect one of the URLs to the other. So that's generally what you want to do. That's a good approach. You will need to potentially remove information that is mentioned in both places. You would have to make sure it flows as one piece of content, not two distinct different pieces that are put on the same URL, but that's the main idea for cannibalization. And for the people that don't know, keyword cannibalization is when you have two pieces of content or that are similar, or two pieces of content that Google just doesn't quite know what they're about. And they kind of rank both of those URLs for one keyword. So for example, if it was Best Golden Strong, which is a beer, that'll come into play in a second, Best Golden Strong, and I had a piece of content that was what is the best Golden Strong, and then another piece of content that is Duvel is one of the best Golden Strongs. Google might rank both of those posts, both of those URLs for Best Golden Strong, and there's a strong possibility that they would rank lower than if one of those didn't exist. A lot of times you will see this with maybe somebody ranks. Oh, I actually saw it on one of my friend's sites, Spencer Haas. He has a piece of content. I can't remember the search phrases or anything, but he was ranking like 8 and 9 for a given search phrase. And they were two similar posts. Basically, if he were to combine the pieces of content and then redirect one to the other, wherever it's combined, then there's a good chance it will rank higher for that given term. So that is what cannibalization is. And Caitlin mentioned that she went with Duvel the other day, which I almost bought yesterday, but I ended up getting a couple other different beers, which is a Belgian Golden Strong. Jag asked about hiring someone to do haro links for you, and then I told him that one of my friends, Shauna Newman, who's been featured on the channel several times, she has the service. I put a link in the chat. You could follow it over there. I'm an affiliate, so I get a commission if you sign up. She does a very good job. All right, this question from Falman says, I want you to give an example how your title will look exactly if you follow the keyword golden ratio for review, product, Canon PowerShot G7X, Mark II, camera. Honestly, I'm not 100. Is that the keyword? Canon PowerShot G7, blah, 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 camera. If so, that's a bad keyword. I wouldn't go with it at all. So maybe rephrase your question and then I can help out. Generally, you want to use all the words that are in the keyword phrase in your title. Ideally, they're at the front of the title. You can add other words to it if you want to make it sound better so it's grammatically correct, stuff like that. All right. And Paul did ask about my link building, link building courses. So Paul, again, Doug at nichesiteproject.com, and I'll get back to you and let you know exactly what's going on for that. And you saw the service from Shauna, and hers is a pretty economic service. The one that Paul saw before was about $500 a link, which is pretty expensive. Sean, what's going on? And Vinay, good to see you both on here. Any other questions out there? I think I still feel okay. My voice does hurt a little bit, but I have been talking for a while. Overall, I feel pretty good though. The one downside with this sort of basement area is there's no windows on this side of the basement. So they're on the other side. And then I'm sort of just separated from everything else over here. I do have tremendous lighting capabilities over here, but it's different than having like the pure sunlight shining. It's bright, certainly bright in here, but it can be dark. It can be really dark. It's not bad. It's not bad down here. I'll get more steps because I gotta walk upstairs to get water and snacks or whatever. Speaking of water. Oh, Paul says, did I move? I've just moved offices. So I moved down to the basement because I have this little recording studio down here, basically. It's a YouTube studio. I could even step over here. So you can kind of see there's more back there. And funny thing, the sort of rafters or like floor bracing, I don't know what you call them, the echo is almost non-existent down here. So I do have a rug down there, which is nice. So I have another podcast called the Mile High Fi Show, Mile High Fi podcast with my friend Carl Jensen. And we have been recording down here. We've moved to various locations. We have 3 episodes out, and it's been really fun. Totally different topic area, talking about financial independence. So it's a pretty fun show. We're gonna have guests and like live guests in here occasionally. So we needed to have more space than what my office had, and the way my office was laid out, it was kind of terrible, even just for 2 people to have an interview. It's a relatively small room. It's great for an office, and my wife moved in there. So all right. Yep, so we're down here, and I need to get more fabric for this side. It's insulation over there, and it just looks it's a little too industrial, and then the dark background seems pretty good overall. And the great part is I can sit, so I'm like an arm's length from the camera right here, but everything else is like really far back there. So you end up with like this really great depth of field, which I'm like looking at the camera from a camera perspective, like it looks good. And I do have this zoom lens so I can zoom out a little bit. The thing is with the HD, you could really get in close here. But if I took a step back, I mean, it looks pretty. I mean, I'm halfway out of the frame here, but it looks so sharp. I'm just like, I'm happy with how sharp it is. So, all right. I think right about there is good. Okay. We got more questions since I'm just rambling on. Elise says, what's the highest display ad RPM I've seen for a website? You know what? I am not savvy in the display ad area, so I'll defer rather to the audience. So what's the highest display ad RPM that people have seen? I'm more of an affiliate guy, just in general. Paul remembers the room in Bozeman with a tapestry on the wall. Yeah, you know what it's like, it was a quilt. I have a couple quilts, and potentially, actually, now that you mention it, it's something I could probably put back there just to give a little more texture. Because the dark is good for some things, but I'm no designer, all right? I'm no designer at all. So I got dark, and then I was like, is that too dark? It just looks black back there. All right. Sean says, sorry if this has been asked, as I've just joined the live stream. That's okay, Sean. Do I have thoughts moving forward with product-based SEO since the Google review update? Funny thing, no one has asked this today, but over the last several weeks, I think about 4 people asked each day. And basically, I think I don't have strong opinions on this. I mean, Google has been sort of ratcheting down in general on, shitty reviews. So I think if you can put as much original content into your reviews that's not regurgitated from other affiliate sites, that's going to be the best thing, right? And that includes original photos. I think that can be really helpful as well. The other thing is you could refer to the user manual for many of the products. A lot of people are not or they're hiring writers, and they're doing the fastest job they possibly can do, and putting in crappy intros so that they could hit word counts, which is something I mentioned before. So the more original content you could put in, and if you go to the user manual, that is sort of like an original source from the manufacturer. It's free to get those PDFs 99.9% of the time. So that's a great place to put original content that is not just regurgitated. I guess it's not original because you're using the manual, but at least it's derivative from the manual, but it's not derivative from like the 6 other websites that are competing against you. Okay, and Vinay says, how I create a organic content for affiliate site to get organic traffic according to Google update. So, number one, everyone, if you're not on my email list yet, go to nichesiteproject.com, click the green button, enter your name and email address. You'll get information, including a template to help you write reviews for affiliate sites. You can refer back to what I was telling Sean too. As much original content as possible is going to be helpful versus like regurgitating content from other websites. And additionally, there's several other posts on Niche Site Project that talk about and refer to the content, an approach for it. So I'll just point you towards that. Okay. Abdul says, are privacy and disclaimer generators a good place to create the pages? Because when we put their content in a plagiarism tool, then they show some plagiarism. Okay. Yeah, I think those generators are probably okay as a starting point. I mean, the fact is, it's just regurgitated legal mumbo jumbo stuff. So I would expect that they would have like a boilerplate situation. And the fact is, like, if it's a generator, it's using a template of some kind. So most likely it's just like replacing the company name or the domain name or something in all the relevant spots. So there would be plagiarism. And the thing is, why wouldn't there be? Right? It's not plagiarism actually, I'm not a lawyer. So it could be plagiarism in a contract or a privacy policy. But I mean, the fact is, you can buy those. You can buy those. I used Terms Feed. I think that's what it's called, Terms Feed, to do my privacy policy. And I'm sure there's similarities. Again, it's just replacing all the spots that I have my company, or it's replacing wherever my company name is relevant or the website name, whatever. All right. And I think we're coming up towards the end. So quick little recap. Thanks to Ezoic, they have a new tool called Leap. Helps your site load faster. Core Web Vitals is the goal, right? They are not charging for it if you're monetized using Ezoic. Link in the description. Niche website builders, they have link building services, they have content services. They even have FAQ content services, so you can add to your existing content with frequently asked questions. And finally, Otis Global. I featured a very cool domain, brewapp.com. And if you didn't see that, rewind the video. I go over some of the details of that site. It's a pretty cool one. And the other thing that we talked about today that people should check out is a Haro link building service that Shauna Newman has. There is a link in the chat here so people can refer to it. I'm an affiliate, so I get a commission if you do sign up. And another plug for my stuff is the new podcast on financial independence, Mile High Fi. And I'm having a really good time doing it. Like I said, podcasting's fun. I would even join up with a beer podcast if there was one that was easy for me to join up with. All right. We have another question here. Saifullah says, should we use KGR keyword as a focus keyword or phrase? What is the context for focus keyword or phrase? Do you mean like using an SEO tool? If so, or an SEO plugin? And if so, my answer is no. You probably don't want to use it because they will tell you. In fact, the Yoast SEO tool is terrible for that sort of thing. So if you were to put in a keyword golden ratio term as your focus word for the Yoast SEO tool, it will tell you to overuse it. So I don't use Yoast. I think it's a kind of a bad tool just all around. I don't recommend it. Paul says, my highest RPM was $4. And I think that's pretty common. I can't remember the highest that I have seen, but I don't remember. All right. Safula says, yes, the focus keyword is related to the Yoast SEO tool. So the answer is no. Don't use it as a focus keyword or phrase. Yoast is just going to tell you to do the wrong thing. They're going to tell you to overuse it. The reason why is Yoast is a tool for like general SEO and people just writing content. If you're using the keyword golden ratio, you're doing advanced keyword research. So Yoast is not going to be useful for you. Vinay says, how many posts are required for ranking? There's no minimum number of posts in order to rank. I've seen sites with 4 articles rank. So there's no specific amount of content that you need to rank. Some people may give you that idea by saying, oh, you got to have X amount of content before you get authority. Something like that. Okay, so Fula says, so what should be the focus keyword? Let's say the KGR keyword is best laptop for accounting students. So what should be the focus keyword? So the point is, focus keyword only matters for the context of the Yoast SEO tool. I'm telling you, the Yoast SEO tool is not useful for KGR, so don't use it. So what's the focus keyword? There's no focus keyword. That's just is a different way of thinking. So there's no focus keyword. Ignore it. What your real question is, I suck at these sometimes because I just answer your literal question. Safula, here's what you're asking. You really want to know how many times you should use the keyword, right? The answer is twice. Use it in the title and then use it one time in the copy. That's what you really want to know. All right. Saeed says, I skipped a question. Let's see if I can find it. What question? Type it in again. If I skipped it, I didn't see it. I didn't see it when I just looked. All right. My site is 10 days old, and when I launched, I had 10 KGR posts, 50% informational, 50% commercial, no link building. All my keywords are ranking from 100 to 140. They're not coming up. Instead, they're going down or staying there. Is this normal for a new site, or is something wrong? Yeah, that's normal for a new site. Go to nichesiteproject.com and look at the FAQ. So it's /FAQ. And you can also take a look at the keyword golden ratio section in FAQs for the KGR, and you'll get more information on that. But yeah, that's normal. I mean, the fact is your site's 10 days old. That's pretty much nothing. And the fact that you are ranking in the top 140 is pretty good. 10 days is nothing. So yeah, you're doing good there. And well, let's wrap up in the next couple minutes here. Celestine says, can I go for underserved keywords with high search volume? Sure, you can do whatever you want. Typically, it will take you longer to rank for high volume search terms, but you may do that if you wish. You can watch a video that I put out, it was like last December, but it's about why 250 is in the keyword golden ratio formula. So if you want to go to high volume search terms, you definitely can. The cool part with, working online is you literally can do whatever you want. No one will stop you. And I was advising Seyfula to not use the focus keyword, but that's another thing. If you want to use the focus keyword, you can go for, I mean, you could use the focus keyword. I don't care. I don't care if you use it or not. I don't think you should. But if you want to, you can. If it makes you feel good, you can do that. Safula says, can we rank any competitive niche with KGR, and what should be the ratio to commercial to informational? So in general, the KGR can be used for any industry. Can you rank in a competitive niche using the KGR? Well, it's possible. I can't answer for sure for every single niche. As far as the ratio of commercial versus informational, I recommend at least 50% informational. And if you wanted to put more informational, that would be fine. Oh, Michael, slightly more interesting question than some of these, keyword based things like, oh, what should I do with a focus keyword? So Michael says, buying old blogs, can you and should you repurpose the content? Yeah, if you buy an old blog, I would evaluate the content, see if it fit with your content plan, and yeah, you reuse it if you can. All right. Safua says you love laptops, but the competition is high and you find awesome KGR keywords with low search volume and less than 10 all in title. Cool. And Playman says, can you give an example of how your title will look for the KGR? Playman, so I think you tried to rephrase it here, but you basically just asked the same thing again, and I still don't understand. Playman says, can you give an example how your title would look for Canon PowerShot G7X Mark II digital camera, or something about any camera model? So the problem is that keyword sucks because you've listed camera twice in there. So it's a bad keyword. So don't use that keyword. I would clean it up a little bit. So again, I'll try to generalize it and tell you that use all of the words in the KGR phrase, hopefully at the front part of the title. And then you can add other words so it makes sense if you need to. Dan says, what's the most effective strategy for a locksmith site? I don't know. I don't do local SEO like that, so don't know. Can't help you on that one. Sorry. And Playman, I'm sorry that I just don't understand what you're asking. Go to Niche Site Project, look at the FAQs for the keyword golden ratio, and that should provide some context. But your specific example is a very bad keyword, and when you rephrased it, you didn't actually rephrase it. You just asked the same thing again. All right, Sean, have a good one. See you later. And Mike does say, forget about keywords. It's all about questions and phrases. I mean, keywords do still matter. And yeah, I think they still matter. Dan says, what's the best link building course right now? I don't know. I haven't taken them all. Number one, I have one on Haro link building, so I'll certainly mention that. And then I've literally taken no other link building courses, so I can't help you there. But I'll plug my own stuff. So I have the Haro link building course, Dan. All right. Thanks, Adrian, for your help, and David as well. All right. Faraz says some keyword golden ratio based articles are ranking to position 47, even though Quora is on the first page and low authority site. Cool. Good job. I don't see a question there, so can't comment specifically. Michael says the best place to find old blogs. So I have to give a shout out to my sponsor, Odys, ODYS. There's a link in the show notes, or there definitely should be. Pretty sure there's one there. So we have Odys in here. And let's see here. Actually, let me put in that link. I don't even see it here. It must have not picked up. So Odys is where I recommend you get those domains. They're typically going to have some content on there. Let me get the link in here. I'm not sure why it didn't pick it up. ODYS. So if you just go to nichesiteproject.com/ODYS, you'll be able to check out what they have going on there, Michael, and you can get $100 in your account to purchase a domain. Otherwise, if you want to get a blog that's potentially still running, I would say you may need to go to like Flippa, for example, to buy such a domain. And Paul says you sold one of your sites for a 24x multiple. So that seems a little low, but there's many factors in the situation. And Safula says, should I work on the laptop niche? Okay. So this is one of those permission-based questions, and I have an FAQ on that. And the answer is, sure, you can do whatever you want. So refer to my question before. I can't tell you if you should do something or not. If you do the research on your own and you find keywords, you said you found good keywords, you like them, then you have to give it a shot yourself. Working online or doing something, right? Actually, let's move away from niche sites. If you thought you wanted to write a book, you might write that book for years. I mean, you might spend literally every day for a couple years writing a book, and you have no clue if it's going to work or not. You have no clue if you'll be able to sell the manuscript. You don't know if people will buy it, if you are able to get it published, and you just don't know how it's going to turn out. So the thing is, you sometimes have to work without knowing if it's going to work out or not. And I think maybe I heard Seth Godin say this on his podcast, that you should ask yourself if you would work on a project if you knew it wasn't going to work. If you knew it was going to fail, would you still work on it? And those are the ones you should work on because you actually care enough to work on those projects. I'm pretty sure it was Seth Godin. It sounds like something that he would say. So if you think about it that way, what would you work on? What would you do if you knew it was going to fail? Of course, you don't want it to fail, but that helps you understand if you really give a shit about it or not. So, Safula, should you work on the laptop niche? I don't know. It's up to you. You'll have to do the research. You'll have to assess it yourself. The fact is, new blogs and new podcasts, new YouTube channels, they start every day in competitive niches, and sometimes someone comes out of nowhere and they're able to have a seat at the table. Your site could be like that. Saeed said single product versus multiple product review site. Multiple products. Why would you? I would never spend time just on like one product. For us, as my site is 6 months old, some of the KG articles are ranking in 47, even though there's only 2 all entitled with the exact keyword, and Quora is ranking on the first page. Can you explain why? All right. Please. All right. I think we're reaching the end of our time here. So first, Faraz, please don't spam the chat. Let's be cool. Don't be an asshole. And Faraz, I can't explain why. I There's like over 200 ranking factors, and there's a chance that your article is written poorly and it just doesn't stack up. Your site's 6 months old. Um, I have no other information. So it could be like look at the first page of the SERPs and see if there are other sites like yours ranking. Now, if there is a Quora ranking on the first page, then that's a kind of a good sign. So I would review your content and make sure the quality is high. Now I know what happens is I say, hey, did you have high quality content? And people swear, yeah, it's super high quality. And then I read it and it's not. So I would actually have someone else, you don't judge your own content, have someone else judge it for you and review, I would say at least the top 10 sites that are sort of similar to yours. And then you'll have an understanding on whether or not, um, you're hitting all the marks. Take a good look at the content that is covered, the topics that are covered in the content there. All right. Okay. So Plyman says, that's what I ask. It's if do review to camera, how will look if apply KGR model because we have to list the model of the camera, etc. I think I understand less now. It's funny. I find sometimes the live streams, once the questions start going through this, um, and we end up with some sort of situation here where we end up with just the same questions. And they just degrade into just nonsense out here. So anyway, and hold on, I think I didn't mean to ban Safula here. I don't think I did mean to ban Faraz. Okay, catching up on the chat here. Yeah, sometimes the live streams just degrade. Sometimes they're fun. Cool people are on. Caitlin's on. David, other cool people asking good questions and stuff. And sometimes people are just jerks. It's the internet. It's such a struggle. It's a struggle sometimes. I'm trying to answer questions. And the funny thing, I know David and Adrian, a couple other folks who've been, especially in the chats for a while, you guys remember I would answer the same questions. And this is like, we're going back a couple years at least, maybe more. So I'd answer the same questions, and people were saying, hey, just create an FAQ page so you could direct people there. But the nature of live streams, honestly, I don't know how Alex does it, but the nature of the live streams is people can hop in and hop out, and they may not know that the question was just asked. Or, I mean, they want to interact, right? They want to ask questions and they want me to answer live. But it turns out it's not fun to answer the same question ad nauseum. And then I did create the FAQs, and then I think some people do read them, which is great. But it turns out that sometimes if I don't have a specific topic and then I don't just like stop answering questions, then we end up with like people like Faraz. So, okay. Okay. So Plyman, I'm going to try to read it one more time. That's what I ask. It's if you do a camera, how will it look if you apply the KGR model? Because we have to list the model of the camera. Okay. I think maybe you don't understand the KGR or how to write content. I might just be confused about your question, but Plyman, watch the playlist for the keyword golden ratio. Watch all of them. There's 7 videos. Watch all of them. Go to my website, Niche Site Project, read about the KGR, read the FAQs, and then I think your question will be answered. There's literally an FAQ on like what should you use for the title. Safula says, how much time with 50 articles until you make $1,000 per month? Well, it varies. It could be, I would say, a year is probably, if you just asked me that question, I would say a year is possible. And some people will only make $100 after a year. Some people will make $10,000 after a year. Some people will make $0. So there's a wide range, I would say. Michael says, you applied for the job. Give you a shot. Okay, I am reviewing the applications. I got to be honest, I was disappointed. There were several people that applied, Michael, that had misspelled words and poor attention to detail. And I thought it would be different. Safula says, why do you love flipping sites? I actually don't really flip them. You must have me confused with a different person. All right. Hassan says, if I create a Amazon store using the WooZone plugin, so this plugin can import data from Amazon, Google can penalize our site. So those are 2 independent things. Number one, I'll just give you you didn't ask this. Don't use the WooZone plugin to create an Amazon store. So that is not what you were asking, but that is my advice. Don't do that. Paul says the live stream's getting wild. Yeah, right. And Michael says, have I ever pitched a niche site to investors? No. Do you mean like I had an idea and I said, hey, do you want to work with me? Or do you mean, hey, I have a site and I want to sell it. Do you want to buy it? I've done neither, by the way, but just curious. And Dan says, yeah, they ask the same question over and over again. Okay, final question here before I totally melt down. And this one is from Anthony. Anthony says, how can I meet the requirements for multiple region product sales of Amazon affiliate? The requirement is 3 sales in the US, 3 in Canada, 3 in the UK, and 3 in Germany. So Anthony, the way you're asking that, it makes it sound like you have to get all of those before you can be an affiliate. That's not true. You can just be an affiliate in the US or just in Canada, UK, blah, blah, blah. And Anthony, you asked this in comments of my YouTube videos, which I appreciate. I love that. I did have one person, they actually sent me an email and they said, hey, I'm really thankful for all the templates that you sent me. If I have questions, can I ask you? And I said, no, I don't do random, free email support. You can ask on the YouTube videos though. And then, they didn't do it. They actually sent me an email and they asked me a question. And I was like, why'd you ask? Why'd you ask if you were just going to ignore me? And Anthony says, all right, these 3 requirements. So the way that I wanted to clear up your misunderstanding. So number 1, you don't have to do that. You just have to make 3 sales in each one of the regions. You don't have to do all of them to be eligible for any of them. All right. So So what you, I mean, the letdown in this whole question is if you get traffic on your site that is interested in buying the products, then you will make the sales. That is what you have to do. There's no way around it, right? So how can I meet the requirements? You need to have traffic on your site that's interested in purchasing, Anthony, and then they will make the purchases. There's no like, I'm not sure if you were thinking like, hey, how can I manipulate the system or something like that? But the fact is, you just need traffic on your site. That's how it's done. And oh, it's funny. Sean says, I was about to leave, but it's getting fun. Go grab a beer. Yeah, I'm going to go walk outside and enjoy the day. So, Paul, Sean, Dan, Michael, some of the other folks that were cool and asking good questions, Safula, and of course, David and Adrian. Those guys keep order in the chat. And then there was one other. Oh, and Michael said you were looking for capital on an existing site to get more content. Yeah, so no, I've never went to investors to try to get more money for content. And I mean, from where I sit, if it was my site, I would want to own the whole thing. I wouldn't want to give up ownership to investors. I wouldn't want to give up ownership to investors, so I would want to keep it all for myself and go from there. But that's just me. Last question here. Minaj says, when should we apply for the Amazon affiliate program? You're getting 20 to 30 visitors per month. Should I apply? I would wait till you're getting about 10 visitors per day, 10 to 20 visitors per day or so. Just you're going to be in a much better position to make the required sales. All right, a couple reasonable questions. Dan says, how concerned have you been with the upcoming Google update? I haven't published any content so I can get my core vitals in line. I'm running in the upper 90s and 100% SEO. Great. I am not very concerned. My sites load pretty fast. I still have some issues with the Core Web Vitals in the Search Console, but the fact is my sites load in a second or less for most of the posts, just when you test them. And I think maybe, I'm not 100% sure. I know that Core Web Vitals use real data from Chrome users, and I wonder if a lot of my visitors have like slow internet connections or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not too concerned with it. Okay. Nick says, this question is related to an expired domain. There's a lot of old pages with good authority. Would it be better to redirect the URLs with a good page authority to new post or to the home page? So number one, if they are relevant to your site, your new niche, maybe recreate that URL. Maybe recreate that URL. Don't, necessarily copy the content, but publish content on that URL that fits the previous topic area. Then I would most likely, if you're not going to recreate it, I would redirect it probably to a new post that is closely related to the topic area, and then finally to the homepage. And then We Entertainment Hindi says, where do I get content? Various places. I test a lot of services. I like niche website builders. I have like a standing order with them currently over the last something like 9 or 10 months. I'm an affiliate for them. And Safula says, why do people fail at KGR? Sometimes it's bad keyword research. Sometimes it's bad content. Sometimes it's a competitive niche. I think you asked, have I ever failed in the KGR? I think that's what you're trying to ask. And yes, sometimes they don't rank. You can probably refer back to some of my KGR content and I say some of them just don't rank. A lot of them will do sort of average, and then some of them will rank really well. Usually it's like 5 to 10%. They do better or worse than you expect. And then a lot of them will be average. If you go back to try to improve the content, build some links, things will be better. All right, I think that's it for the day. Thanks, everyone. I hope you had a good, enjoyable one. I think I feel okay here 23 hours after my second vaccine. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed I won't feel bad. Dan says you're hosted with Bluehouse. You have WP Rocket, Cloudflare, so your numbers are pretty good. Yeah, that's great. That's great. All right, everybody have a good one. We'll catch you next week.